Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I interviewed Calico. Calico is originally from the States, but is now called Paris home for the last 3 years. He's an emerging artist and entrepreneurial storyteller. I love checking out his architectural drawings of Paris all over Instagram. His work is detailed, and he also works a lot with marginalized communities. We talked today about what it is to be an artist in Paris and how his work has evolved. So welcome to the show, Calico. How are you doing today?
It's been a long day, but a good day.
Yeah, I heard you've been having some boating fun, so that's pretty cool. Where are you at right now?
I'm up in Lille on a riverboat, actually, and we're doing some construction out. So, fixing things a bit and then getting back to dock in its own time. Boats kind of go in their own time.
Cool. Multi-talented, working on boats, drawing, digital art. I want to talk about all of it, but I want to go back to the start of where you're from and what brought you to Paris.
Those are two very, very different answers. So where I'm from is actually also an incredibly long answer. I won't give you the entire laundry list. My dad was in the military, my mom was in the medical industry, and they were actually split. So I went to more schools than I did grades. But if it was west of the Mississippi in the U.S., I probably lived there for a bit.
Wow. And then what brought you to Paris?
Actually, my partner. So my partner has loved Paris since they were, I think it usually says 14, but I think it was earlier than that. And it was somewhere that they always wanted to live. And I said, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to figure this out. So we made a promise. And 1 year later, I was getting my visa to get here on a passport tunnel.
That's so cool. And how long ago was that?
That was 3 years ago.
Very nice. So you got here just in time for the plague.
I actually arrived in Paris the day after they locked down the borders. It's kind of a long, crazy story. I had to talk my way across the border from London because they wouldn't let me fly in to Paris. They'd already closed the borders. Technically, I should have been shut out.
What an adventure. So talk a little bit about your work. You're a digital storyteller. You're working with all forms of mediums. I was loving looking at your work on Instagram. It's absolutely beautiful. I see a lot of architecture. Talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so this kind of goes to how I got my start in art and what brought me here in specifically the art world, which is I never went to art school. My first art teacher was my grandfather, who was an engineer. Mm-hmm. And so I learned technical drawing from him. And to give you an idea of how specific he was, he once had me redraw his nose on his face on a drawing because I got the angle wrong. I'm not joking.
Wow.
But that did give me really good accuracy and a very good sense of depth. But as a kid, that was what I learned. And then, everybody started telling me art couldn't be a career, art couldn't be something that I could actually do. So I studied business and didn't really get back into the art world until I was living in New Orleans and was surrounded by artists and musicians there and loved it, started doing it again. And then someone told me, hey, there's an artist visa in France. You could probably apply. They didn't tell me that it's ridiculously rare to get it, thankfully. But I did get it. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm actually here on the passport tunnel for an artist.
Very cool. Yeah, it is pretty hard to get, but I'm surprised how many people do get it. I mean, I've met a lot of people who have gotten that visa, and it does work, people, if you're looking at that.
They only give out 500 per year. That's the thing.
Wow.
That is compared to other visa areas, which if you're an entrepreneur or something like that, they might give out 15,000. So it is a difficult visa to get, but it's definitely possible if you have a good art practice and can show the French government that you're going to add to the art community here. It's actually a big part of the visa.
Yeah, and talk about that. How are you adding to the art community here?
So I kind of have two ways of doing that. The first is, as I'm sure you've seen from my Instagram, a lot of my art focuses on the places that I've been. I really love showing the detail and the life and what's gone into building the environments that we live in. And I like doing that in ways that kind of meld old styles and new styles. So I use inks and watercolors, but then I'll augment them with virtual reality or augmented reality. So you have layers that add motion or show something like moving through a day. And then the other thing that I do a lot right now is actually do a lot of cause-based art. So I help organize collaborative art shows around a number of different causes. Right now, what we're working on is actually an art show specifically about the censorship of women's bodies. And I'm working with a number of really amazing women artists that are all in one way or another kind of taking back their own image or have been working in the space of censorship of women for a while or feminist art. So that's something that's really exciting that's on the horizon.
Wow, that's great. We'll have to definitely share that in the show notes as well. And from what I can see on your Instagram, it's a lot of times, like you said, like buildings and architecture and things like that. So how do you decide what you're going to work on? Like, talk about your process.
Um, so a lot of the times for me, it's oftentimes trying to find the things that I feel like are going to catch people's attention and share like where I am in the world. So there's a lot of art actually from specifically around where I live. There's also a lot of art, some of my earliest ones in Paris, for example, during the 1 kilometer lockdowns that we all hated so much. I went and drew things that were specifically in that 1 kilometer range. And then we did actually an art show specifically about those, just showing like this is literally how far I could walk and what was beautiful at the edges. Um, a lot of the times what I say is I really like sharing those just slivers of happiness that you can find when you're just standing in front of something beautiful. And I try and capture that and then share it with my audience.
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder for us to really look up because so many times when we're walking around the streets of Paris, a lot of people are on their phones or things like that. So it's kind of nice just to like take a look at what's around you. I think your drawings really remind us of that.
That's probably one of the most common things I've heard from my Parisian friends is
Yeah.
when they're looking at things, they're like, I've walked past this a dozen times or 100 times and I haven't seen it like this. I'm like, yeah, it's just like laid down on the ground and looked up at it for an hour.
Yeah.
But it just reminds people that, we're walking past beauty, especially in this city, but in a lot of cities around us, we're walking past beauty every day.
And how long are you laying on the ground drawing these beautiful architectural masterpieces? Because some of them are so detailed. I mean, you guys have to go check out his work. Like he draws every little piece of the building.
So that definitely depends on the piece. And I have found out a couple of times that security guards will eventually come and make you move along no matter what you're doing while laying on the ground.
Wow.
But that being said, I mean, I'll go back to a place 3 or 4 times. Any given piece might take me anywhere from maybe a quick one being like 8 hours. One that's longer might take me a week going back and forth. And if it's something that's really detailed, I definitely do use reference photos. I'll go and snap some shots and then take them back to the studio so that I have those references to go back and remind myself of the details.
And talk a little bit about the most difficult part of what you're creating. Like, what is the hardest part of making your work?
Beyond the hand cramps.
Yeah. 8 hours is a quick one.
I would
It's
say
like,
that is definitely one thing that when I started doing this style, I kind of committed myself to doing a lot of detail like this and doing these really small, fine details. I definitely signed up for a lot of nights with strained eyes, headaches, aches in the hands, things like that.
yeah.
But I definitely consider that to be worth it. And taking that amount of time doing something like that is very meditative for me. The other thing I would say that's hard for something like this is going in and figuring out how to show something in a way that people are really going to feel pulled into it. Because that's really important to me is I don't want to just be showing people like a pretty building. There's lots of books that have that already. I'm really trying to show something that people are going to feel like they're standing there. So finding an angle that really makes it feel like they're looking up at the building themselves, and then capturing
Mhm.
that is probably one of the hardest parts of that art.
Yeah, yeah, to really draw them in instead of just being like, oh, there's a building, moving on.
Hmm.
And talk a little bit about how you feel when you're actually creating these drawings. Are you in a super, like you said, kind of a meditative, like focused state, or how are you feeling?
I have textbook ADHD, so I hyperfixate. That is definitely what helps make a lot of this art possible. I will get so focused on the art that I forget to eat. Thankfully, I have a partner that reminds me. But no, that is definitely where I go. Once I'm focused on a page, focused on the inks, focused on what's in front of me, everything else kind of fades.
Yeah. And what was it like learning how to combine like the new and the old? Because what you do is you draw or watercolors and then you put that into a computer. Like, how did you master that? How did you learn how to do that?
Well, for me, that's definitely something where I mastered the traditional styles first. Again, going all the way back to my grandpa teaching me with an old school compass and rulers and pencils and paper. And then from there, a lot of the basic drawing skills are directly applicable in almost every program. So when I switched over to working in a technical program, I like some of the old school programs like Sketchbook Pro that are open source and just don't have all the bells and whistles. So it feels more like working
Hmm.
with traditional mediums.
Yeah.
So most of the time when I'm working in a digital program, it's not that different than working with my pens, my inks. And
Yeah. They've gotten so good.
yeah, other than that, I would say the most difficult thing for me was actually learning how to use the technologies available. Like we have so much ability to change and alter what we have, right? So I could
Hmm.
easily take one of my pictures, fully animate it, have everything moving around, and then people would be looking at a video though. For
Hmm.
me, I want to minimize that as much as possible so that people really feel like they're looking at a picture still, like a physical picture that someone's drawn and that it's moving in front of them, or a
Hmm.
painting, and that the painting is just like the paint is moving on a canvas. So finding that line of how much to use technology to show something traditional just in a slightly different way.
And talk about your feelings about AI. Like, what do you think about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the future? How do you feel about it?
Oh, completely split. Um, I have like on some days I look at it, I'm like, this is one of the most amazing creative assistants I've ever played with because I've definitely taken my time and figured out some ways to play around with the tools available. And for ideation, figuring out composition or swapping out an element in a picture so that you can have a better reference to work from. Hands down, AI is incredible. At the same time, I'm completely aware of a lot of my friends losing their jobs. There's
Hmm.
folks that I know in India and Asia right now that their entire career has been working in studios that have just basically eliminated their positions overnight. And,
Wow.
I've got friends in the US working in the gaming industry, for example, and they've been some of them just absolutely killing themselves to work the entry level hours in the gaming industry for 3 4 years hoping for that big break moment, and then all of a sudden AI comes along and they're like, well, if I don't start using AI to do all of this, I can't keep up. And a lot of
Hmm.
the parts of art that they really enjoyed are the parts that AI is actually best at. So even if they still have their jobs, for some of them it's kind of hard to stay in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely going to change the world and the art world in many ways. We're already seeing that with copywriting and digital design and things like that. So it's interesting to see how it's going to evolve. But I'm curious about what all the artists feel about it. I think a lot of people are scared of it, but also embracing it, like you said. And I mean, obviously, it's not going away. So we
I
have
feel
to
like the
kind of
best
move
analogy
with
that I
it.
have actually comes from a friend of mine that I apprenticed with when I was younger. I apprenticed with a blacksmith when I
Hmm.
was 14, and he did really incredible, intricate work. And of course, you can get any kind of metal work done by a machine these days. His job is technically completely redundant. And as he's been
Hmm.
watching AI come out and what it's doing, to him, it's just the same as has happened in every industry. It's happened in the fashion industry. You know, there's actually a really fascinating study in the BBC right now about like how many hours it took to make a just very basic shirt back in the Stone
Hmm.
Age, which came out to something like 760 hours. And now we can buy a shirt
Wow.
for pennies because, it
Yeah.
only takes like 2 hours to make. So
Hmm.
it's not like artists are going to go away, but I think it's definitely going to shift towards looking for the people who have a very unique creative vision. And it's going to become very competitive, and that's going to be tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And talk a little bit about how you found ways to turn your art into a business. You said in the beginning, people were like, oh, you're not going to be able to make any money being an artist. You got a degree in business. So
Mhm.
how did you kind of fight through that and create, your work as an artist? You make money at it.
So for me, there's two things that really helped my mindset around the art business. And the first thing was actually because I started really picking art back up again as something that was serious in New Orleans. I was surrounded by people that think very collectively. New Orleans is a place where you really can't just survive on your own. Just the nature of the city and the fact that honestly a hurricane almost wipes it out every 2 or 3 years, everybody really has to rely on everybody around them. So collective and collaborative opportunities are the bread and butter for a lot of artists. And when I saw a lot of artists working together and the pool that like 5 or 6 artists could bring to a single show, that really clicked for me as like this is really what being an artist as and part of an artist community is about. Like, sure, you might be able to make your own big name on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, but for the most part, the collaborations are really what's going to make it worthwhile, and also eventually those collaborations are going to become part of a very profitable business if that's what you're focused on. And I found the same thing to be true in Paris. Most of my shows that have been the most successful have been collaborative shows with 5 or 6 other artists, and it's always more enjoyable.
Hmm.
The other thing is,
So yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So you would say that it's really important to like as soon as you jump into this art world, like start networking, finding people you can collaborate with, and that's the key to making it a business.
For me, I like the word collaborating more than networking. In particular, from an American
Hmm.
context, we tend to think of things as so transactional, and networking is almost
Hmm.
always like, oh, I'm trying to like move up the ladder, meet the bigger artist, meet this like person, this like influencer or something like that. When I talk to people about networking, they're always asking me like, well, how did you meet this person that has 50,000 followers, or how did you work with this person who has 1 million followers on TikTok? I'm like, okay, those were interesting people, but actually, some of the best collaborations, and honestly, again, going back to the business question, some of the most profitable connections that I've had have been with artists that most people almost ignore, but they've been doing it for 50 years, 60 years. They know
Hmm.
what they're
Hmm.
doing, and they've got an amazing style, and they have an amazing following that really loves their work. And that's really key.
I like that. And was that going to be the second part?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in these like, almost almost famous celebrities on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. And it's like, no, just like the people are really they have a great fan base. Like look at them too.
Mhm.
That brings me to my next question, like about social media. Like how do you feel about it using it as an artist? Like it's kind of a double-edged sword for a lot of people.
I honestly, like, I've done so many posts about this particular thing
Mm-hmm.
because for me, especially, with being someone with textbook ADHD, social media is a dopamine machine, right? It is. I
Yeah.
hit on it, I click on it, people like things, that gives me dopamine. I get absolutely just way over invested sometimes. And I constantly have to remind myself that that's not necessarily the important part of what I'm doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I have at this point just Facebook and Instagram. I keep it simple. And
Yeah.
the main reason why that I even have two of those is because I like having some pieces that I'm sharing particularly with like my grandma and my mother's generation, and that's Facebook. And then there's my broader audience that's on Instagram, and that's much more
Yeah.
global and much more. I see it more as a tool to again, connect for collaboration even more than just reaching a general audience. And I've seen a lot of business come out of both of those. And I think that's really key for a lot of artists is like figuring out which platform you enjoy using and which platform actually helps you sell something and not focusing so much on the numbers. Because I know artists with only 500 or 800 followers on Instagram that support themselves with their art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not all about the numbers.
It's really not.
And what do you think is the importance of art in today's world, in your opinion?
I think there's two major things in our world that's really important around art. One is I've always seen in my life that the creative people figure out what's possible before the scientists and the engineers know how to do it. Right? So a lot of our new ideas, a lot of our exploration of what is possible, both in our society. So when I say engineers, my brain is also thinking of social engineers, people that are trying to change up our governments, change up our communities. So if you're looking at something that's possible, we can imagine it and communicate it through art before we can figure out how it works. And then the people that are really good at figuring out the systems or figuring out how to use something to make something look at that and they're like, I want that. Okay, now I'm going to figure out how to make it. So I feel like so often our advancements follow what our creative minds put out there and communicate. And when I'm looking at how art is being consumed right now, that's exactly it. People are looking at the world around them and going, this could be possible, that could be possible. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, and we need both. And then everybody else is figuring out, well, what are we actually at? Where are we actually going to go? And the other thing that I think for art these days that is probably more important than any time in the last 100 years, we all seem to really, really need things that remind us that there's something beautiful around us. We're constantly inundated with the bad news of everything that's going on in the world. We're constantly dealing with the difficulties of our own lives. And art is a peek into something that's beautiful and worth being here for. I think that's really important for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, it's a bit of an escape. It's like a little vacation from our mundane lives.
I have lived a lot of mundane life as an artist. But yeah, I think it's, even if it's not an escape, just like you said earlier, it reminds us to look up. It reminds us that we're walking past it, that our own lives right now that we might think are mundane at the moment, if you pause and stop like an artist did in front of a building and just truly enjoy it for a moment, or like one of the things that I don't get as much time as I would like because not a lot of people pay attention to it. I actually really love drawing flowers. And part of the reason for that is because just standing in front of flowers and looking at it and enjoying it for a moment can make any moment in any life just beautiful.
Yeah, just appreciating it for exactly what it is, just taking that minute to admire it. And you're getting it even more than a minute because you got 8 hours of hand cramps to really appreciate it.
That is part of what makes this worth it for me. Yes. If I'm focused on recreating these for everybody else, then yes, I get to think about it for an entire day, and that's worth it to me.
Yeah, definitely. And in your own words, how would you define creativity?
Defining creativity is basically impossible, in my opinion. Creativity is literally the chaos of the connections in our head, making sense of the world around us in a new fashion. And how would you define that? It's people constantly are trying to put a label on creativity. Going back to your question about AI, being in a lot of the chat groups and things like that around it right now, that's one of the biggest beefs between people who are using AI and traditional artists is, oh, is this creativity? Is this art? Blah, blah, blah. And I mean, people said that about photography, but we obviously have decided photography is creative. People said that about film and videos. Obviously, that's creative. People said that about the computer. They were like, this is going to destroy everything. It's so logical. And, yet, honestly, one of the cutting edge areas for beautiful creative art is in the gaming industry. So creativity is just finding new ways to rearrange the things around us and communicate them to the people that we care about. So I guess I'm trying to define it, but I still feel like I failed.
Yeah, I think that's a good definition. I always get a different answer. I like it. And do you have tips for people who are searching for their creative talents? They may feel like they're not good at anything. What would you say to them?
The first thing is you have to suck before you actually are good at something. And we're not taught that in almost any community these days. I'm terrible at being bad at something, honestly. And that's probably one of the most challenging things for me in continuing to expand my art is the fact that learning a new skill inherently has failure and inherently has like just deep insecurity and feeling like you can't possibly do it. So if someone's feeling that way, you're probably on the right track, at least for the moment. And I think for a lot of people that I've known in the art world, the real key to kind of finding their own style, finding their own voice, wasn't necessarily finding the thing that sold the best in the market or that they liked the best looking at other artists. It was finding the artistic process that they enjoyed doing enough that it was worth that failure. Like, I love sitting there and doing hash marks for shadows and trying to figure out the lighting on a piece and going over it with watercolors, which are ridiculously unpredictable at times. I really actually adore that. And even the frustrations in that process are worth it to me because I can focus on it and I enjoy it. And I think that's really key for finding your own style and your own voice and becoming a really successful artist.
I love that. No, that's great advice. And everybody go out and suck at something today. I mean, that's the key right there.
The key.
Don't try and talk a little bit about some future projects. I know you mentioned the women's project you're working on, some of the other projects you're excited about, you want people to know about.
So definitely, it's going to be a little far on the horizon because I don't like doing things last minute. So we're working with the artist, and this will be probably next spring. So watch out for the Feminist Art Show. And that one I really love because, again, it's talking specifically about the censorship of women's bodies that we're dealing with in social media, and as large companies are really getting to decide what is art and what is unacceptable. And that's just fascinating. And I've worked with a lot of different feminist movements. I was raised by like 5 women, so that's actually been something that's been a part of my life for a very long time. And I love being a part of and supporting women that are on the cutting edge and things like this. So I'm working with some amazing artists there, and I'm really excited about it. And the other thing that I'm definitely enjoying at the moment is going back to that idea of the collaborative art show. I'm getting to work with my friend Marcus McAllister, who's actually a Arkansas artist who's been living here in Paris for quite some time. I think almost 20 years, I think. I might be remembering that. Wow. Sorry, Marcus, if I am. But he's a really incredible artist here in Paris, and I've gotten a lot of inspiration from him, and currently in the beginning phases of putting together a collaborative art show that's going to be looking at the world around us as if we're zooming in from outer space. So each artist is kind of at a different level of zoom. And so one person's doing stars, planets, galaxies, and zooming into someone who's doing the planet, and then zooming into someone who's doing like broad landscapes, mountains, etc. And then myself, I'm going to be doing at the city level. Another artist who's doing beautiful pieces that are actually based on fashion shows. So like we're getting closer and closer. Marcus's work is truly intimate. He really connects with individual people, so beautiful portraits. And finally, one person actually at the atomic level. So the idea is literally just each artist taking a certain distance from the world around us and just getting closer and closer and closer. And all of us are working in inks and paints. So I think it's going to be a really gorgeous show.
I can't wait to see it. Will there be more information on your Instagram about that later?
Yep, we'll be putting that up when we're ready to get it going. We're going to be putting that one up. Again, I don't work on something that's next week or next month. So these are look for these next spring.
Great. And where can people connect with you online and learn more about your work?
So calico.inc, and that's CALICO _INQ. That's my Instagram. And with the website, it's actually calico.inc as well, but it's INK. So it's CALICO _INK.
Very nice to hear it from you today, Calico, and we'll share all of that in the show notes. Thanks so much for speaking with me today, and I can't wait to see what you'll do next.
It's been fantastic being here. Thank you for it. And you got some really insightful questions. This was fun.
Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.